Miranda?
Yes. What? Her family flew home, but she didn't, and she's been everywhere searching for you. Yes. Screw off, I'm joking, man. That chick ran for the hills, huh? You should have seen your face. You were so happy. For a moment, you were like, ah. I can't believe I got you again.
Hey, so Drew, I was just opening up our email here, and I just saw that we were offered a 5-year lucrative contract from Podcast One.
Really?
No, not really. Screw off, I'm joking. Isn't that the meanest thing ever? Like, who jokes that? It's mean.
I've never seen the wind, let's talk about wind out of the sails, like deflated, like the guy's life imploded in front of
the life, the life in his eyes drained. It's really the best acting job I've seen.
They give him an Oscar,
year.
really. Give him an Oscar. Welcome back. This is episode 104 of The Last Row Podcast. If you're looking for our website, thelastrowpodcast.com, follow us on Twitter at The Last Row Pod, facebook.com/TheLastRowPod. Pretty much anywhere you go on the internet, our handle is at The Last Row Pod. Instagram. If you're enjoying the show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podchaser. Welcome back, Badway. This is one of my all-time favorite movies, even though no one else agrees with that.
All-time favorite movies. Yeah, I like Godfather, I like Citizen Kane, and I like The Heartbreak Kid.
Yeah, and Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo.
European Gigolo, not one. It's two. Yeah.
This is all time up there.
Now, I would say an underrated classic, lost in time and space in the year 2007, Heartbreak Kid, October 5th release date. Where were you, October 5th, 2007?
I don't even remember.
Were you in the movie theater watching this movie?
I think I did see this in the theater. Did you?
I probably did. I think
we did.
We were going to a lot of movies at this time.
Yeah, I think we did.
Run time, 1 hour, 59 minutes.
Too high.
A little bit too high.
Slightly too high.
Like it's just barely borderline too high.
You didn't need 30 minutes of him crossing the border at Mexico. Like
I don't know. I thought that were some of the best moments.
It was great, but they could have shaved off like 5, maybe.
They could have shaved. They could have shaved 10 off the beginning.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah, this is a straight comedy directed by the Farrelly brothers. The brothers Farrelly, Drew.
Yeah.
We'll get into some of their shenanigans later on. IMDb for this movie, 5.8 out of 10. It's a little disrespectful.
Too low.
A little disrespectful.
Too low.
Rotten Tomatoes, 29%.
Way too low.
Too low. Yeah. Metacritic, 46%.
Too low.
It's a little too low. Give me at least 51. And Letterboxd, 2.4 out of 5.
Shameful. Doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me.
Should be like a 2.6.
Yeah, but one below the Into the Spider-Verse for you.
Yeah, can we get a boost in those numbers?
Too low. And I loved it.
I'll have to get in there and rate it 5 stars. Maybe I'll boost it.
Single-handedly rescue their Letterboxd rating.
Because maybe there's like 8. Maybe there's like 8 votes, and like if I do it, it would like exponentially.
You're gonna bring the average up.
Yeah. I'm 20%. I'm 20% of the score. After a short fling with a beautiful woman named Lila, and at the urge of his friends and family, Eddie proposes marriage. But Eddie didn't realize that Lila is a shrew, and a shrew?
Is that offensive? I know it's Shakespearean, but is that offensive in 2022?
I don't know. It sounds old school for sure. I don't know if I just said a slur or not. So hopefully,
I think
if it's a slur, can you bleep it?
I guess I could.
Okay,
I'll have to look it up after this.
And she reveals her true nature during the honeymoon. Yeah, it just feels like it doesn't seem like a nice word.
I'm pretty sure it's a Shakespearean thing from that play, right?
It's something maybe my grandfather used to say, but like how like Gramps,
you can't say that anymore.
But you can't say that anymore, Gramps. So I apologize.
Don't unsubscribe, please.
He then meets. I don't think anybody's unsubscribing under shrew. But
hey man, you don't know.
I just said it twice now.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. I better get the beep button out.
All right, we got to figure out what that means. He then meets Miranda, and it's gonna. We're going off the rails here, but no. If it was that bad, it wouldn't be in the Google description, right? So
that's true. I guess I've seen a lot worse.
He then meets this non-shrew Miranda and is convinced she She is his soulmate. Oh, Drew, it's late.
Shroomate.
And he sets out to woo Miranda, like just straight up Ric Flair her,
Yeah.
and extricate himself, which is another thing that you shouldn't do.
Yeah.
Don't Ric Flair a woman.
Oh.
And extradite himself from his wife's
I'm imagining him
claws.
like taking his pants off doing elbow drops, like
Yeah.
all down
Yeah.
the beach, trying to woo her.
Nobody asked for the pants to drop. He's dropping them.
This is one of the weirder synopses that
Well,
we've
I
had
butchered
here.
it, so that's my problem.
But it didn't flow right. So and not by you. It just didn't flow right.
I made
You've
it
got
better.
Derogatory terms here.
Yeah.
They're talking about wives' claws. Like,
Yeah.
come on now.
Wife's claws, yeah, geez. I mean,
In any event,
get out of the 20th century here. Synopsis.
there's a few taglines here, and I think that the taglines are messed up in that they should all be on one. So I'm going to read. These are 3 separate taglines. I'll just tell you that.
Okay.
There's 5 total, but there's 3 separate, and I think these should all be together, but they're not. So the first one is love blows.
Nah.
That's its own, right? Love hurts.
Nah.
Love stings.
No.
It should have been love blows, love hurts, love stings, and then something else witty at the end, right?
Yeah, I think none of them really make sense
It's
for the
dumb,
movie.
right?
Yeah.
How about he waited all his life to get married? Too bad he didn't wait another week. But what would another week really have done for him?
Was he
wouldn't
going to go
have
to
done
Cabo
anything.
all by himself?
No, it wouldn't have done anything. It doesn't make any sense.
Next.
And then it seemed like a good idea at the time.
Okay,
which
that's allowable.
Probably the best one,
Probably the best one.
dude.
Allowable.
My head exploded when I saw the budget for this movie. What do you think the budget was if you didn't see it in the notes already?
$6 million.
This was 60 million according to IMDb. What the hell? Did they buy the resort?
Ben Stiller was hot back then, man. Let me tell you.
60 million. I mean, I've compiled the villain scales from a lot of our old movies, but I got to start compiling the budgets because that's more than like The Running Man and like other movies that like science fiction movies and stuff. I know that was in the 80s, but come on.
When you send your entire production crew to Cabo, I guess the price goes up. I mean, I don't know where they really shot. We probably could have looked that up if we were a reputable podcast.
Yeah. Well,
But
we're amateurs
we
over
didn't do
here.
that.
Is this like some funny business going on? In any event, it made 128 million estimated worldwide gross, which is
All right.
pretty good, right?
It was
It's a
worth
Ben
it.
Stiller movie.
It was worth
It
it.
made it back.
Double.
But
You doubled
I
it.
saw like 60 million, unless that's a typo, but come on, that's a lot of money.
16 million?
The 60,
6D million?
60 billion.
6D jillion.
Another weird piece of trivia before we get into the movie is that originally, so this is, Malin Ackerman, who is up and coming at this time. You had Ben Stiller, who was sort of riding hot. You had Michelle Monaghan, who was also up and coming there. Originally, did you know this, that Jason Bateman and Amy Poehler were originally cast as the leads? And then
Really?
there was some other stuff happened. They didn't wind up doing it. But do you think this movie would have been better if they
No.
were in it?
No.
Why not?
I think Amy Poehler could have pulled off the female role, but I think Jason Bateman is too, I don't know, what's the word?
Smug?
Smug might be the word. Yeah, I don't think he has the neuroses
Yeah.
that Ben Stiller has,
Stiller has that physical sort of witty, like weird, crazy
Weird,
guy
nervous
comedy.
tick kind of, jolty, jittery. Yeah.
Bateman,
Bateman's kind of
yeah.
too cool for school, right?
He is. He's too cool. And I
Yeah.
think Stiller's more nerdy, and I think it
Yeah.
works to his advantage better
I
than
think-
Bateman.
Bateman's pretty good in his comedies. It's just
Right.
that he has this role, his own slot, and it isn't these type of movies.
And I know the word smug is negative, and I don't even mean it in a negative way. Like, he's too cool. I think maybe
Yeah.
that's the way. And Stiller is a bit more of like an everyman, I guess.
Like for
he's-
example,
yeah.
Horrible Bosses, like he's like the cool one. He's the
Yeah.
level-headed one. That it doesn't work in this type of movie.
Yeah.
But that's his like typecast.
But what about Farrelly Brothers movies in general? Because I have to laugh. Like we were looking this up before the show, so we're like, hey, let's make sure we have a good list of the Farrelly movies. I mean, we know a lot of them, but just want to see. And I think you were joking before we recorded, like you want to make a Wikipedia account just so you can fix this chart. Like explain to the listeners like what this chart is.
Well, it's basically a chart of the titles of the movies that they've either directed, written, or produced. So if both brothers directed it, wrote it, or produced it, the chart says yes. If it's just one of them, it just says Peter, because I guess the other brother didn't do anything by himself. And if it's neither, it's no. Now, if that sounded confusing to the listener, I assure you, if you were looking at this chart, you'd be just as confused.
It's like, who's the director of this? Yes. Yeah. That sounds like Vince Clortho, like from Ghostbusters, is going to be like writing this chart.
Long story short, there are 2 movies in here that were neither directed or written, but only produced by the Farrelly brothers in their entire filmography that are, for lack of a better word, morally questionable.
Yeah.
And it's Say It Isn't So and The Ringer. And it's no coincidence, I feel, that they did not write those movies.
Yeah, that's true. But they put their name on it.
But I will say this. I'm a fan of Say It Isn't So.
I've never seen it.
Long story short, it's incest comedy.
Yeah.
starring Chris Klein and Heather Graham.
Sign me up.
Yeah. And it's got Orlando Jones, you know. He's always fun.
What do you think of the Farrellys in general, right? Are you a fan of their work?
I mean, come on. Dumb and Dumber, come on. I mean, that's all we got to say about that. But yeah, this is kind of like
that's all we got to say about that.
You know, what else are we going to say about it? You know.
Oh man,
this is kind of it, right? So they were kind of like working in this era of late 90s to mid 2000s.
Yeah.
They had their run, and then they had their comeback with Hall Pass and Three Stooges 4 or 5 years later. And
would you call that a comeback?
Yeah, Hall Pass was decent, you know. And then Peter wrote Green Book and directed and starred.
Peter was like, "You just want to win an Oscar right now?"
No, yeah, but like obviously you got Kingpin, you got Something About Mary, Shallow Hal. You really have some classics in here. Is the one that stands out to you personally? I wouldn't say. I mean, aside from Dumb and Dumber, because it's like cheating. You can't say
Dumb and Dumber is a great movie, but this one actually is the one that I think is the most underrated of their list. But the one that I think is the most classic to me is Kingpin, which one day we will do on this show.
Yeah.
I love Kingpin. I love the characters in that movie. I think it's really funny, and I think that's a really good movie.
Yeah, I mean, their first 5 movies in order were Dumb and Dumber, Kingpin, Something About Mary, Outside Providence, and Me, Myself, and Irene.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Me, Myself, and Irene is a movie that people forget about. That's in Jim Carrey's library, I feel like it's the forgotten gem of his catalog. But like if that's your first 5, I mean, that's something a little nuts there. I mean, what a hell of an intro.
So you said there's nothing that needs to be said about Dumb and Dumber. I feel the same about There's Something About Mary. Like that movie's just instant classic.
Equally classic romantic comedy, goofball comedy.
What do you think about? So I don't know. Is there anything that stands out to you on that? I want to talk about Ben Stiller movies. I think Ben Stiller in general is another area that we got to touch because we've had him on here. Heavyweights? I think it was episode 70. Yeah. I don't know that we've had him on much.
No, I think that was it. That was our only role with him.
Yeah. So the triumphant return of Ben Stiller, it only took 30 some plus episodes. But
sure.
What do you think? Instead of going through his whole filmography,
yeah,
what do you think is the most underrated Ben Stiller movie? I'll even let you use Heavyweights.
Oh, okay. So I mean, Heavyweights is not underrated if you know, right?
Right.
If you know Heavyweights, you know it's underrated. It's just great. But people are sleeping on it, then yeah, it's underrated. But I have a few here I want to point out, and not all of them are movies. Yeah. Am I allowed to say roles?
You can say roles.
But the number one favorite thing that he's done in his career to me is his Mission Impossible spoof from the MTV Movie Awards.
That is all time.
Where he plays Tom Cruise's stunt double, Tom Cruise.
That's a good one.
I mean, that's like an all-time comedy sketch performance right there. Secondly, is very under the radar. I don't even know if he was credited in this or not. When he plays the guitar store clerk in Tenacious D, Pick of Destiny.
Yes.
Where he's telling them about the pick in the back room and he's got a crazy
hair.
wig on, the crazy hair. Yeah. That always sticks out to me. And also, third cameo it's not really a cameo, it's like a 3-story arc in Curb.
Yeah.
Where he's feuding with Larry David. He gets stabbed in the eye with the toothpick because Larry didn't know where to put the toothpick. And he's in the back seat of the car. And then Larry drops off his guest in the front seat. And Ben wouldn't get into the front seat. Larry's like, I'm not going to chauffeur you. Get in here. Or no, it was the other way around. Larry was in the back seat, and Larry would get in the front seat. We're only going 2 blocks. He was like, I'm not going to chauffeur you. Because I've had that exact same argument with someone.
It wasn't me, was it?
No, it wasn't you. So. Yeah.
I think that's good.
I empathize.
Another, I think a super underrated movie for him, and I don't know if anyone who's listening has ever seen this.
Now, before you go,
Go
wonder.
ahead.
I have a couple of movies here,
Yeah.
and I wonder if it's one on my list. You go for it.
I was going to say Envy.
Yes,
because
it's Envy. It's
I
Envy.
really like that movie,
It's
and
such a dumb
nobody
movie.
knows really about it. And
Yeah.
it's a great movie. Obviously, like there's a run that he had in the 90s into the 2000s where there was just like hit after hit after hit. Like I love Along Came Polly, and I think the other one that nobody really has seen, and I think this is a really good one. There's a very specific scene that comes to mind in my mind where he's riding on a subway and he's intentionally trying to get sick. It's from a movie called Duplex, and if you've not
Duplex
seen this,
with
it's
Drew
him
Barrymore.
and Drew
Yeah.
Barrymore, and it's a really, really stupid, like it's like a dark comedy, and it's very funny.
Yeah.
But Envy and Duplex are like two
Yeah.
super underrated movies. I feel
So-
that most people don't know about.
It's funny because Envy and Duplex, it's him or Envy is him and
Jack Black.
Jack Black. So it might have been at the time where there might have been fatigue of both guys.
Yeah,
So if you're a casual fan of either or both, you might have been out. All right, I'm done with Jack Black. I don't need to see this movie. But if you're up for more good times, the Vaporize, come on,
yeah, Vaporize.
Vaporize.
This is a
Great.
good.
So that was on my list, and another one which I feel like probably gets lost in the shovel as a needless remake, but Starsky and Hutch
Yeah.
is legitimately a fantastic comedy.
It's just a great movie in general, and he's awesome in it.
He doesn't cry; he works out.
Yeah, exactly. Him, the comparisons and the relationship that he has with Owen Wilson's character in that movie is great. Like they have great chemistry.
Yeah,
And obviously it started in Zoolander, but I think when you look at that, most people will write that movie off as like, oh, it's a stupid remake. Dude, we don't need that. But it was really good, and I thought he was great in that. So obviously the hits like Meet the Parents, Something About Mary, and all that stuff. But I think it's just most people haven't seen Envy or Duplex, and I feel like
Yeah.
I know you and I like those movies. If you're listening to the show and you haven't watched those, and you're a fan of Ben Stiller, go
Yeah.
check out those movies.
Yeah.
You'll definitely
I mean,
enjoy them.
I've been in on Ben Stiller my whole life, so
Yeah.
I would call myself a fan.
Well, let's talk a little bit about his character in this movie, Eddie Cantrell. So we'd be remiss if we don't say this, but this is a remake of a very, very funny or original movie back from 1973, I believe, or 4. It's of the same name, Heartbreak Kid. It was starring Charles Grodin, I believe, and a couple other people. It was nominated for a couple of Oscars, so it's a very classic. I think it's on the AFI's like 100 funniest movies ever.
Ooh.
So this is maybe what you would call an unnecessary remake.
Yeah,
Some would say it maybe disrespected the original. I've never seen the original, so I'm just going to pretend that this is the one.
I
So-
honestly had no idea until today.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just completely escaped me.
It's-
I mean, I've been in the movie business a long time, Drew, and this movie has just escaped me.
Nobody rented the original for you for at Blockbuster.
No.
They asked you for a recommendation. You give them that one.
So I don't know. Like I mean, I love movies, but I'm also not a cinephile. There's a difference.
Yeah.
So I don't really watch too many movies that were made like pre 1975. Not too many. Not to say I haven't seen them, but like I don't know. I don't go exploring older movies
Listen,
like that
when
from that era and before.
when you're watching Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo,
Yeah.
there's no time for Maltese Falcon. And
That's what I'm saying. Like I'd rather watch Deuce Bigelow, European Gigolo for the 17th time than watch a top 100 AFI rated all-time classic comedy. I'm sorry. Guilty as charged. I'm sorry.
I mean, this is the kind of hard-hitting analysis you get on the Last Row podcast. Like, they're not listening for us to listen to or watch, like, Dr. Strangelove. This is about Deuce Bigelow,
Yeah.
European Gigolo, and
I mean,
the remake of the Heartbreak Kid.
I love movies. I'm okay on films. All right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, but do you love
Yeah.
films?
I'm not sure I love films. It's like we asked Vinny Chase, am I an actor or am I a movie star? He's a movie star.
Yes.
And I like movies.
Get the film buff.
I don't like films.
Now that we got that out of the way,
Now this movie that we just watched, Along
Yeah.
Came Polly.
this film.
Oh, Along Came Polly. I got Along Came Polly. on the
Along
mind.
Came Polly. I wish we watched that one too. That's on the future list. So let's talk about Eddie Cantrell. So Ben Stiller plays this guy. He's in his 40s. He's a single guy. He got out of a relationship where he was engaged to this woman named Jody for about 5 years. Would you have gone to, and he gets invited to her wedding.
Yeah.
Would you have gone to this wedding on Valentine's Day without a date?
Well, it depends on how they left the relationship.
Yeah.
Now, forgive me, Do you recall? Did they say what happened?
I think
Why?
she got tired of waiting.
He was just stalling, right?
I think so.
Okay.
I mean, they were engaged for 5
So
years. That's a long time.
To him, he may have been heartbroken.
He might have.
And I guess he called it kind of like, oh yeah, like his friend says, this is going to be weird. He goes, oh, it's going to be kind of cathartic.
Like he wanted closure.
Closure. I want closure. Yeah. I don't know. I probably wouldn't have gone. I mean, he got roasted pretty hard a few
Shouldn't he have
times.
tried to bring a date? Shouldn't he have tried?
You
Even
have
if
to.
it was like a friend?
I'm not saying you have to bring a date to every and all weddings, but in that wedding, you have to.
But what if they
I
didn't
don't
give him a
care.
+1?
I don't care if you have to rent one, Drew. You got to bring
Yeah.
one.
Go call it a professional?
Yeah.
You're gonna call him the professional. What if he didn't have a +1? Like, is that malicious? Like, when her dad says like, oh, it's the first guy that she's marrying that it wasn't an a-hole.
Okay, all right. If she invites him and doesn't give him the option of a +1, then it's a definite no-go because screw her. What do you think? I can't get a date? What do you think? What's going on here?
But what kind of closure did they leave if they're inviting him, they're putting him at the singles table? It seemed like they were almost vindictive. Now we could sit here and say it was all coincidental, but he's at the table with the kids essentially.
Yeah.
And
they called it the singles table, but she knew.
She knew what she was doing.
Knew.
Listen, when you get married, you carefully place people. That was done on purpose.
He took a risk by going, and he got roasted for it. So,
you know what? Maybe he deserved it too. Let me say that.
Maybe he did.
Maybe
he left her hanging for
deserved
5 years. She probably loved him.
That's true.
Yeah.
She married, as Hank Schrader would say, the best man that he ever met. So, what do you think? So he's also a successful, or we think he's a successful sporting goods owner of a business called Bay City Sports. He seems to know a thing or two about moisture wicking overlayers
and women's undergarments for sure. No, I mean, he seems like he's got knowledge. He's environmentally friendly on the materials that he's buying. He seems to have a passion for it. So I think the store will expand, and I would shop there.
I'm curious about his business acumen. Does he know what he's doing? Like, I don't know. And who else is involved in this thing? He seemed like he was he was in the community. People knew him.
Yeah.
And he seemed like he was good with
totally.
the customers.
I think that he's a pillar of the San Francisco community, and I would definitely patron his shop, Drew.
So we mentioned he's single, he's in his 40s.
Can I ask you about him being in his 40s real quick? I hate to cut you off, but this is the only time I could fit it in. He's got like a touch of gray here in this movie, Drew. And normally that's not a Ben Stiller look in movies. He's usually jet black, right? Did you find it a little off-putting that he was gray in this movie? Like, was it calculated to show like, oh, look at this guy in his 40s? And does make him look that much older than Mel and Ackerman?
I think it was probably done on purpose. And then I was wondering as well, because it's been a while since I've seen it, is Along Came Polly after or before this?
I feel like they're like within a year of each other.
It was within a year of each other, right? Because I haven't seen that in a while. And what I was wondering was his hair gray in that? Or like, does he use touch of gray?
It absolutely was not.
So it definitely was calculated then in that case. And I think it was to maybe make him seem a little older. Because we don't know how old they were. I mean, they said he was in his 40s, but they didn't say anything about Lila at all.
Along Came Polly was 3 years after.
Okay,
so
3 years
prior.
after.
3 years prior. Yeah.
So maybe he did gray up a little bit. Maybe he grayed up.
But I feel like, why did they keep his signature look of black? Like, I feel like the gray overcompensated for his age. Like, we didn't have to get it shoved in our face. Hey, this guy's older than her.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It probably
made him seem more neurotic. I don't know.
It probably was done on purpose.
All right.
Like we were saying, he's in his 40s. He's a little gray. But he's also single. So he dated Jody for 5 years, like we said before. It doesn't seem like he's really interested in, maybe getting married. It seemed like, he's going to be engaged for 5 years. He wasn't really interested in that. His dad and Mac, his friend Rob Corddry, who's pretty awesome as a side character in this movie, they're giving him crap about, he's not really dating around. There's a couple of choice words that his dad, who is his real life father, says to him, which would make me pretty uncomfortable. I don't know. Do you think they were putting too much pressure on him to get with somebody or get with people? Like,
Absolutely.
What do you think about that kind of pressure? Because I think it's just let the guy be.
Absolutely. No, I'm not about to give people life lessons here on the Last Row podcast, but sometimes that's what we're here for, right?
Spew some truths.
So, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm in the exact same situation as this guy, but I'm in my upper 30s and I'm not married, and I'm not about to get pressured to get married by anybody, whether I'm in a relationship or not. You know what I mean? There's no need to force marriage on anyone just because because 40 doesn't equal marriage,
Right.
or an age doesn't equal marriage. Like, why marry? Like, the perfect example is Rob Corddry's relationship with his wife in the movie, where he's married, he's talking about you got to do it, but he's miserable. But like, that doesn't have to be life.
Exactly.
You don't have to be married just because it's time to be married. Oh, but the second half of my life is just going to be utter chaos and garbage, and I have to put up with it. You know, like what? Why is that a thing?
Yeah. Marriage equals finding the right person. And Eddie is the poster child for that in this movie. And if you ever want to know, that's what this movie is all about. It's he clearly wasn't ready to marry this girl. And he got talked into it, but he also made the choice himself.
Yeah. He got tag teamed by his friend and dad, and also her stipulation of, oh, they're going to make me move to Germany unless you're married.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that was intentionally led on by her. It might have been, but I didn't catch it as that. But all three together made him pull the trigger on something he was definitely not ready for.
Well, let's talk about Lila then, because he meets her in a street encounter. Is that
a street encounter?
That's one way to go. Is it like, what's the Craigslist thing where I saw you on the street?
I saw you on the street. You were getting mugged.
He left it. I forgot what it's called. Missed encounters or something.
Yeah.
It's like, you were the girl that I got your underwear.
I got your underwear. David Bowie on them.
But he meets her in a street encounter. Like, what's your take on that? Was it serendipity? Like, what would you call it?
That's serendipity. I mean, for good or for better or for worse, right? And my first question on that whole encounter is what would I do?
What would you do?
What would I do? What would you do if a mugger just biked right into you and you had the eye to eye with him? You don't see a weapon on him, so it's hand to hand. He's got a vehicle, which maybe makes him more vulnerable. It's not like a horse. So if you're on a horse with a sword, you definitely have advantage. We know that. But he's on bike. He's going uphill. It's San Francisco, baby.
Man. He
was going uphill.
He's got thick calves.
So he's at a disadvantage. The biker's at a disadvantage. But he gets past him, gets sprayed with the perfume. He gets past him. What would you do if you were encountered? Forget beautiful woman, ugly man, whoever was getting mugged. You're the hero here, or you're the looky loo that lets the guy go. Who are you?
I love Batman, but I'm not about to be trying to be him.
Are you not trying to be Batman?
Because I'll probably be the one that gets stabbed. Yeah, that's. I mean, you're gonna try if you can try to stop him. If he bumps you, maybe you try to grab it. The guy had coke all over his face; you could see it. So clearly, he was on something.
Here's what I would do, and maybe this is more cowardly. Is I would take a fake bump.
You would.
I would pretend to wrestle with him, and then I'd like fling myself into the building. And, oh, he got me. I tried. Which he kind of did. I mean, he got sprayed. He did. And that was enough to like disarm him.
Did you ever get perfume in your face? I feel like it would really be worse than mace.
I don't know about worse, but certainly wouldn't feel good.
It might be worse than mace.
So we've established that we're both cowards, one way or the other.
I think we're cowards.
It's not worth getting stabbed over, I feel.
And you know what? Like, it was the person. Obviously, it was a bad thing. He tried to save her. Let's
say you're a single man.
Yeah.
And it's 2005, and the muggy was Alicia Cuthbert. Would your muscles get bigger at that point?
So I'm not trying to be Batman, but you speaking of my kryptonite here.
Yeah, I mean, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, Superman. Right? Yeah.
That's. I mean, go back to our episode on The Girl Next Door. That's what I'll say. Yeah. But I think it's pretty dangerous to try to be a vigilante while you're trying to do that. I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but it's tough.
You're wearing the theoretical hockey pads in this scenario.
Well, if I'm walking around wearing Kevlar, then I'll try to stop.
If you're wearing the hockey pads, it's better.
I don't have any hockey pads.
Yeah.
So what about the fact that this purse is stolen and he tries to be the hero? He does, and he gets perfumed in the face, and he goes after her. And his dad and his friend give him crap for not asking for her number.
Yes.
He played it pretty serious. He played it like he was trying to help her. He does pick up her underwear, which is an awkward scenario, and he gives it back to her. They had a nice little encounter. It seemed like they were into each other. Should he have asked for her phone number? Is it appropriate to hit on somebody after they got mugged?
Probably not, but he probably should have said, hey, it seems like you're a little shaken up. Do you want to go grab a cup of coffee?
Yeah.
Or do you want to grab a beer? Like I feel like that would be a natural like segue. And then at the restaurant or at the bar or at the coffee shop, wherever you want to be, then you can kind of feel out the situation. But for him to just leave, he didn't even get anything. No number, no contact, no nothing. So if she never shows up at his store, it never happens again.
What about the fact that, so here's maybe a different way to say it, because I agree with you. If he didn't try to be Batman and he didn't try to stop her and then he tried to hit on her, that's absolutely a violation.
Yeah.
But maybe because he tried to help, if he would have asked her for a cup of coffee, like imagine the scenario where he doesn't help and he's like, not my problem.
Yeah, at least he got sprayed in the face for
Yeah.
it. So, at least there was effort. But no, he was a fool for not at least extending a hand at some point.
Yeah, I think it was clearly there was chemistry there, but maybe he felt bad. I don't know.
Even without any, romantic interests, just to say, hey, it looks like, this, that was
to make sure she's okay. He's trying to make sure she's all right.
Do you want to calm down, get a cup of coffee, have a beer, something like that?
He cares.
My treat, that kind of thing. But yeah, he dropped the ball. I agree with his dad and friend.
Yeah, so you agree,
but not to the extreme that they describe it.
That he should have crushed it. That's just crushing it.
Yeah.
So basically, she shows up back at the store. He has her underwear, and these guys are like creeping out over it, which is a little creepy. But she does. He told her where she was. He worked at the store. He owned the place. She came in, so she was clearly, interested in meeting him or learning more about him, and she admits as much. Mr. really didn't want to get married, gets coerced essentially or pressured into, hey, she's the perfect girl. You got to marry this girl. And they show montages of their relationship and they show them getting to know each other. Did they even talk in any of these? Like all they were showing was them making out the whole time.
I mean, that was it. And I think that's a calculated decision to show that they really didn't think this through at all. It was a 6-week fling that turned into a wedding. Yeah. And if you marry someone that you don't know, then you get the ensuing antics.
And maybe this is how it turns out. Yeah. So maybe I'll ask you a loaded question. Was she really that bad? Was she all that bad?
Like starting in the car ride to Cabo.
Yeah.
I guess was where we would start.
Yeah.
No.
Like what are his annoyances with her maybe? Like I think that's a way that you positioned it earlier, and I think it's maybe a good way to look at it.
So this is jumping through the whole movie here. I wrote down 7 or 8 or so quote unquote annoyances. These are not my thoughts. These are things that annoyed him. First of all, was at the wedding. He found out that his mom, quote unquote, does not age gracefully, as his friend would put it. I mean, that doesn't say one thing or the other, but all it says is that superficially he's a little concerned about that. And that's not something he checked up on beforehand, if that's something that concerns him.
Which raises flags about him, is what I would say.
Right. Never met his mom. Never met her mom until the wedding day. 2, driving down to Cabo, she's singing for every song. And yeah, it's annoying. For sure it's annoying. Singing in his face, this, that, and the other.
Yeah, this is the next 40 to 50 years.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's a little thing. And it's the first time it's happened. So don't jump down someone's throat for their quirks on day one. You could talk to her, a week later. Hey, you know what, honey? This kind of bugs me. Number 3, holding hands at breakfast.
Yeah.
You need 2 hands to eat. Or if I'm being real here.
He had good technique there with the napkin.
Yeah, it was awkward though. It was awkward. But he took it in stride. But again, the meter's rising, right? The red meter's rising.
You're watching the thermometer's about to burst?
Thermometer, yeah. Yeah, it's rising. So when they pull off to get a motel and then they get down to business, he is put off by how like overly sexual she is, like in an intimidating fashion.
Well, because they specifically did not make love.
Yes,
for lack of a better term, specifically before the wedding.
She wanted to wait.
Right.
Yeah.
So he had no idea.
Yep. And then post-coitus, just her being annoying, touching him, drawing circles around his nipple. He says he doesn't like it, so she starts drawing squares. It's like that's kind of like
Hey.
a dim thing where, all right, this girl, she doesn't
He said circles. He didn't say anything about squares.
I mean, triangles, rhombuses.
How many more shapes should they have
Yeah.
gone through? Is what
Yeah.
they should.
And again, they're small things, but these are things you learn about someone before you ask them to marry you.
Yeah.
Right.
You probably should know that.
All right. Then we get to the big stuff when we get to the honeymoon, as in she finds out that she told him that she was what did she call it? An environmental researcher. When he asked what her job was. But come to find out, it's not her job. She's a volunteer. She
No.
makes zero money. She has no income. She has no job. She volunteers to clean up oceans.
Did he ask?
Yes.
But he didn't really ask.
He asked, "What's your job?" And she says, I'm an environmental researcher, AKA I volunteer. A job is not a volunteer. And they have this argument in the movie. A job is not equal a volunteer. It's a hobby.
But what does he do? Or what does she do? That's what she does. She volunteers.
Does. Yeah, that's all she does. You know,
She
what do? I play Xbox. That's what I
Yeah.
do. It's not my job.
You're a
Yeah.
amateur video game
Yeah.
game expert.
What do you do? I have a podcast. It's certainly not my main income.
It's definitely not a job. we volunteer for the podcast.
It's like if I met someone and they asked me what my job was, yeah, I'm a podcaster.
We volunteer here.
I would say, I'm an inventory specialist, and my hobby is podcasting.
I thought you were bringing your income to this podcast, because I don't have one for this.
Oh man,
This is
must be some kind of charity situation.
we volunteer. Was that really wrong? Was it wrong of him? Was it wrong for her, or was it just again another situation where she wasn't really thinking what he was asking?
I don't think it was a malicious lie of omission. I think it was she's dim.
Like, you didn't think she was intentionally lying, like,
No,
I'm going to get this guy.
I just
and marry
think
him.
she's like kind of dumb.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to be mad at about her. It's that he didn't get to know her.
And
she him.
He should have known. I'm sorry. You don't ask once, what do you do? You're an environmental researcher. He didn't even go with her to her job. He knew nothing about the job or volunteering. So I blame him on that. There's that's not her fault.
So kind of related to the no income thing is she has $26,000 of debt resulting from her cocaine habit. She didn't even say she owes credit card debt. She says she owes guys $26,000.
So this is like drug dealers and stuff.
What kind
right?
of people does she owe money to? And what kind of danger is she? And now he in.
Yeah. Again, I don't think it was on purpose. I mean, some people have student loan debt.
And like there's a write-off for every one of these things, Drew. So she told him earlier in the movie, I have a deviated septum.
Right.
It's annoying, this annoying deviated septum. By saying that, she thought she was saying, yeah, I have a deviated septum. That means I have a coke problem. But that does not equal that at all. Like some deviated septums are resulted from snorting too much cocaine. Not all. Some are just born sinus related. I had a deviated septum. I had a coke problem
people that have
when I was 16.
He was 8. Like he calls out. She's like, "Oh, well, how do you know? How do you know?"
Yeah. Yeah, I did not have a coke problem when I was 16. That was 24, Drew. Not 16.
That was later, much later in life.
Yeah. Then she gets major sunburn, and then she blames him for, quote, being right about the sun.
Well, he was kind of bossy about that sunscreen, wasn't he?
So yeah, she ignored the sunscreen out of spite because she didn't want him to be right.
Let me tell you, like I was in Mexico one time, and 1 minute outside in the sun, and I was burning. Like
the sun is different. The sun's different out here.
Yeah, the sun is really strong down there.
The sun is the sun.
Let me tell you, you cannot use mineral oil. You will burn. You will bubble. Like she's lucky she didn't get like whatever. I don't remember the degree of burns, which one's higher, first or third. But she's lucky she wasn't in the hospital after that. And
then finally, when he's trying to break up with her at the very end of the movie, she misread it as him moving to Germany so she can pursue her hobby. Which, again, like it's already over and done with, but this girl's not very smart, is she? I mean, it's a misunderstanding, right? It's what she's jumping to conclusions. Why would she think he's going to divorce her at the honeymoon? Like, think about it from her perspective. He wasn't really treating her with a lot of respect either. No. When you think about it. So we see it from his perspective. What about her perspective? Right. So this movie is shot through his eyes, basically, right? Right. They don't really paint him as a sympathetic figure, though. No, they don't. So it's not like she's terrible. It's just that a lot of annoying qualities are coming out in this girl. And what it boils down to is that these are the type of things you learn when you live with someone. They haven't even lived together yet. Like, I assume like it might have been the second or third night they ever spent together was the first night of the honeymoon, right?
It's true. I mean, they've never spent the night together at all.
The car ride from San Francisco to Cabo, they didn't even take a plane. They took a car ride.
Yeah.
Being in the car for, I don't know, a dozen hours, maybe more. I don't know the time frame there, but
yeah,
that trip in and of itself is a test of wills. It is a test of relationship. How can I stand someone sitting right next to me enclosed in a car for 12 straight hours?
No less.
Yeah, in a Mini Cooper. Not just a Cooper.
The Mini.
A Mini Cooper.
They're not even like a van or like a bus.
Yeah.
It's
so what it boils down to is that they don't know each other. And he's making that out to be as that of like, oh my God, I can't stand her. But it's not her, it's the situation.
I mean, look, relationships are about compromise. Relationships are about, I'm not going to go all Mr. Rogers on you here, but it's about compromise. And yeah, maybe she could have been a little annoying singing there, but he was doing stuff that, you know, maybe she didn't outright lie to him. It seemed, right?
So having said everything that she quote unquote did in his eyes, and before we get to what he did, which was a shorter list, but a far more volatile list, a devious list. You know the subreddit AITA, right?
Yeah.
Am I the asshole?
Yes.
I mean, if this scenario were planted on Reddit, am I the asshole?
Yeah.
I mean, who would it skew towards? We have previously mentioned, and we have our boy Ben Stiller here. What's his name? I already forget it.
Cantrell.
Edmund Cantrell?
Edward. You didn't tell me that.
So all he did was just go on 2 day dates, like flat out back to back, 7, 8 hour, 12-hour dates with this chick Miranda that he just happens to meet at a bar
on his honeymoon
while he was down having a drink while his poor wife was upstairs suffering from sunburn. So
it's true.
Do you want to talk about Eddie and his fling with Miranda and his violations?
Well, let me ask you this first before we say that. If there was no Miranda, like let's say there wasn't another woman, let's say, you know, it was just them dealing with the annoyances or whatever on the honeymoon. Do you think he would have rolled with it, or could he have made the relationship work? Like, would it have been okay? This kind of is frustrating, but
this is a depressing life, Drew. And you know, I hate to think of the scenario where the Miranda of the situation doesn't exist.
Yeah,
because if it does, it's clear that they don't belong together.
Yeah,
right?
They're incompatible.
But if this Miranda girl did not exist, he didn't meet her. He went down to the bar for that drink and had his drink, went back upstairs, got annoyed by her again. She made him mad. He makes her mad. This would have gone on for 50 years.
You think so?
Yeah.
They
really
wouldn't have got to know each other. And like,
you know why? Because his trust circle is his idiot friend.
That's true.
And his horn dog father.
That's true.
Who would scream at him if he ever whispered the word divorce.
That's true.
What are you nuts? You just met the girl. She's fine. You're acting like you've always been. You're never satisfied. You got to stay together. It's not that bad. It's you. It's not her.
When you put it like that,
right,
Dad?
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I guess you're right, but I also feel like he didn't really know her. So look, there's things where two people can be incompatible for sure. Absolutely. And I think they're incompatible. But then there's also the fact that like, maybe he just didn't know her that well. And as they got to know each other, they would learn each other's quirks and things like that. But probably not.
I just think they're on 2 totally different planes.
That's true. That's true.
And his trust circle is untrustworthy and is not going to give him good advice. So he's going to be, just like he was guilted into marriage, he's going to be guilted into staying in that marriage.
Fair enough. Then let's talk about his violations then. So what are his?
Oh, yeah. All he did was lie and say that he was married, and it turned into a joke that he was married to Miranda. You know, when he was about to confess to her that, I'm married. Before they even, did anything malicious. And it turned into a 7-hour drinking session with her and her entire family, which were lovely, by the way. It's the kind of family you wish you had, right? I mean, no offense to my family or your family or anybody's family that we know. That's the best family.
They had a good thing going.
Even the weirdo Danny McBride, he's still charming in his doofus self, right? You had the progressive girl, you have Danny McBride. Yeah, you got, they're just nice people. You got Bew, Bew.
It's the guy from Walking Dead.
So after having a 7-hour fling with Miranda and her entire family, got to know them all, know them more than he knows her, more than he knows his wife. He goes back upstairs. She's awake. Where have you been? Lies to her. Boom. Oh, I was here. I was there. I was everywhere. Blah, 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 blah. I didn't want to disturb you. Blah, 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 blah. Right? The next day, goes out again after she is understandably upset about being sunburned. Like, she's like in crazy amount of pain, right?
That would make anybody nuts,
Yeah.
I feel. Even though if it's
And,
your
like,
own fault.
Right. And like, she's in a bad mood, which understandable. You got to let that slide. But that doesn't mean you go on a day date all the way across Mexico with this girl you just met, having the time of your life.
They were playing soccer in the streets.
Yeah.
Getting hand ground corn tortillas.
Yeah.
Made on the stone.
Petty rats,
Yeah, but the truth
Pounded
is,
whiskey at Manuel's, Drew.
Yeah.
Come on.
Well, the truth is, and this goes back to what you said about them being incompatible. They knew right away he wanted to go out fishing and he wanted to go deep sea fishing.
Yep.
And right away she says, I don't do boats.
I don't do boats.
I don't do boats. And then Miranda's like, hey, we're going to go deep sea fishing. You coming?
Yeah.
So it was like instantly, it was what he didn't have.
Yeah.
And his eyes got bigger.
Yeah. Do you want to ride donkeys? They have this whole burro thing. And she's like, oh, I don't know. It's too dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he really wanted to do it.
And
so
Miranda brought it up like, oh, let's do this. And he's like, oh my God, girl of my dreams.
And I'll be honest, like whether Miranda is actually the right person for him or not, TBD for a couple minutes here, but instantly she is more appealing from a compatibility and chemistry standpoint going into the movie, right?
So then after the freaking 9-hour day date where, he said that he was golfing with the Patagonia, the head cheese at Patagonia.
Six-toe?
Yeah, with Sixto,
One of the most elaborate lies. Like, it's one thing to say, hey, I was downstairs, whatever, but like the degree that he went into that lie, like put him into like villain scale territory. We won't do it, but
no, it's close.
It's close.
But then afterwards, where he's, I got to go to dinner now with these people to close the deal. This is big for our store. This is our future, honey. Really, it's his future wife, his future ex-wife, right?
She had no income.
So that he makes up an elaborate tale about why he has to go to dinner with these people to leave her in the room for basically 48 hours at this point, right? And she's like, you know what, fine, this is important. Let me throw something on. I'll come with you. No, wait, honey, actually, it's on a boat. He goes, it's on a little 12-foot inflatable job.
Man. Zodiac.
Zodiac. And she's like, oh, I can't go. I can't go on boats. So he's like, boom, got it. Out for the date. Real scumbag move, Drew.
It was a complete scumbag. I mean, if that didn't put him on villain scale territory.
This is what made him the villain of the movie right here. That move.
That was really messed up. And look, it's one thing if you don't like her or not, but come on, that was pretty bad. It was pretty bad. And so let's wrap up her and him because I want to talk about him and Miranda. I think, from my perspective, he made no effort to really get to know her. He shouldn't have married her from the beginning, and that's pretty damn obvious.
Yeah.
I don't think that she tried to get him to marry her by moving to Rotterdam or saying that, right? I think it was just another one she wasn't very.
Yeah, she wasn't really thinking about it. I don't think that it came up at all.
Because I think there's a section of people that maybe think that she did this on purpose to try to do this. I don't think she did.
I think she would have happily gone to Germany had she not met him. Yeah. So now it's just a complicated thing. Oh, my quote unquote job versus my boyfriend. They're pulling me away. I really like this guy. That kind of thing. I
think we could say that I don't think she did it on purpose.
Okay, so she didn't lie, but she was kind of dim and a little misinformed and kind of was vague on some things.
Right.
I feel unintentionally. And he flat out lied to her multiple times.
Yes.
And went on dates with this girl. So obviously he in the Reddit subreddit, he is the asshole.
100%.
So, but my question is like, is it okay to pursue the girl of your dreams when you find her happen to be on the honeymoon with the girl you just married? Like,
no.
If it's destiny, it's destiny,
I'll say this, and this is the perfect segue to Eddie and Miranda. In what world did he think this was going to work?
Forget work. Forget work.
Look, I guess the heart wants what it wants.
Yes, exactly. Like, if it was meant to be.
But it wasn't.
He went about it the complete wrong way. But what if, new movie, he was 100% honest with Malin Ackerman the second he knew,
then it's fine.
he had deep feelings for Miranda. He knew this is my soulmate I just met. I can't believe this is happening. I made a big mistake.
In the scenario that he finds this girl, goes immediately up to the bedroom and says, oh, this isn't right. We're done. Like in a nice way, however he wants to do it. And then he immediately tells Miranda, like, hey, I should have told you that I was here. I didn't think that I should tell you because I didn't think it would have mattered, but I got to know you. Even then, if you're Miranda, she's going to be like, this guy's a creep. He's here on his honeymoon. I'm not his soulmate. He knew me for 5 minutes.
But if you're honest from the beginning and up front, and he says, listen, friends talked me into this. I got spooked. I married her. I made a big mistake. I don't know this girl. I don't know what's going on. Maybe she would still be scared off by that. This guy doesn't have
That's
shit
what
together.
I mean.
Yeah.
You want to talk about making go to a job interview, right? you don't like play on your phone during the job interview. That's like the equivalent of like playing on your phone during a job interview.
Yeah. So, and what makes him the biggest asshole is that he's hedging most of this time, where it's he's not sure about if, he's going out with Miranda.
Yes.
He's pretty much dating her, but still keeping his wife on the side in case that doesn't work out. Then Lila will never know. And then he can go back to being married. So he's being a real scumbag here. But I just wonder if there's a world where this could all make sense, where he was just honest with everyone. Like in a real life scenario, if he were just Mr. Honesty, could he have successfully switched from Lila to Miranda? Now, of course, Lila would be crushed, right?
Right.
But like, you got to do what you got to do for true love. Is there a possibility where this is real and this could happen? I
think it probably has happened in life.
All cards
but I
on the
would
table.
say that the odds of it being successful are probably like, I don't even know what the betting odds would be. I'll say maybe 20% chance of success.
I was gonna go like 1 out of 100 or something.
Yeah, like it's 20 is awful, but it's very, very low. It could maybe happen.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's trying to pick her up, regardless of how well he knew, because she doesn't know him.
Yeah.
Like, think about this. This guy tells you, I didn't know her. I got goaded into it. Like, what?
This Miranda girl has to be put off the second she realizes
her creep radar is going to be
he's
up.
On his honeymoon, whether or not it was minute 1 that they met, or in this movie where she found out entirely too late.
Because in that scenario, what kind of guy meets somebody and marries them within, for her, right? She seems like a nice person, a pretty like level-headed person. Because, talk about why does he like Miranda? So compare him to Lila. Like what is in it for him to maybe want to make the switch?
They seem to have the same kind of sarcastic sense of humor. They seem to be, a little more adventurous with social things. She's a lacrosse coach. He's a sports shop owner. They have the sports thing in common. The whole family's got sports in common. And I think the family plays a part in it too. He meets the family right away and they hit it off immediately. So like he's already like accepted by the whole family. So that's got to feel good for him too. Especially like since like his only other family at home is his dad, who's like just a weird sex freak, for lack of a better word. Jerry Stiller.
Sex freak.
May he rest in peace.
R.I.P. Yeah, I think the other interesting thing is like he got to know Miranda and her family in one night of drinking more than he knew his own wife in 6 weeks of dating.
Yeah.
If
he had that kind of night with Lila 6 weeks ago, they might have both found out that this isn't going to work.
So is this like you should go on vacation like to find out whether somebody's worth it or not?
I recommend going on vacation before you propose to someone. Sure.
Yeah.
I think that's a good rule of thumb.
Because then you find out like, okay, what are they into? What it's
close quarters. Close quarters with someone multiple nights in a row.
And you have
find
to figure out,
can you live with the quirks?
Yeah, and then you have to figure out, do you want to do the same things together? Are you going to make compromises? Like it's probably a good test.
We all have quirks. He might be a boat enthusiast.
Yeah.
And if she's scared of the boat, that's like a big part of his life, or theoretically, it could be anything. I don't know.
So, we'll talk about meeting on vacation. Miranda and Eddie don't know each other in real life, right? The real world outside of, this resort in Cabo. Could their relationships actually work? Like forget this. Like, do you think they're compatible as people?
Sure. I think the chemistry was there. It was obvious. I mean, it might have been in comparison to how incompatible he and Lila were, but sure. I mean, he seemed part of the family. He seemed like right away, boom, instant match.
Let's talk about the actual classic misunderstanding. So you set it up a little bit earlier. You said that they were at the bar and this couple asked them, she's there. He ran into her before the whole videotape incident and all that stuff. They kind of, she got to meet him and all that. He answers truthfully. They say, "Are you here on your honeymoon?" And he says, "Yes, I am." And this whole thing starts this path, right?
She took it upon herself to go, like, to make it a joke.
Yeah, she thought he was kidding.
We're married. Yeah, we're on our honeymoon, because she didn't give him time to say, yeah, it's my honeymoon. My wife's upstairs, actually. Like, he was about to say that, and then she went in for the joke because she thought he was joking.
Well, and
to like get a free drink out of the family.
And they set it up so that he couldn't really say, like, well, let me ask you this way: when should he have told her? Like, should he have told her that night when they gave him the shots and that she's like, well, you can't get out of this? Like, he should have said, no, I'm really here on my honeymoon. Like, I'll drink the shots with you and hang out. My wife's upstairs.
Yeah. He couldn't say it at the bar because he would have embarrassed her and like in front of the bar.
Right.
Because she made the joke. And it's like, you got to go along. Ha ha ha. Yeah, we're married, that kind of thing. But yeah, once they sat down, he should have said, yeah, actually, they sent us these shots that for our honeymoon, but in actuality, I am in my honeymoon. Yeah, that's the exact moment he should have come clean.
Well, and let's say that he did. So he doesn't, obviously. He doesn't do to the end. At what point was it actually too late to tell her? Like, during this whole process? Like, okay, he didn't tell her that night. Maybe he was embarrassed. Maybe I didn't know what to do. And then we had a bunch of drinks and I felt uncomfortable and I didn't want to make you feel weird. Whatever it was, but like, at what point did he actually blow this whole thing? Like, dude, there's no going back.
It was the next morning when he had the breakfast in his hand, and he was bringing clearly food for two people up to his room, bumps into her and the family, and she goes, "Hey, it looks like you got a lot of breakfast there." And he's like, "Oh, I'm carb loading."
He pulls a Michael Scott.
Yeah, total lie. Right there was the lie that he's alone when in fact is with his wife. But I even understand him lying there because the whole family's there.
Yeah, the family.
I think realistically, when they finally meet up later on that day to go on that day date, before they leave, it was his obligation to tell her. Listen,
I agree.
I had a great time last night. I made a really big mistake. Here's what happens. Honestly, I'm married. I made a horrible mistake. I shouldn't have married her. I realized that before I even met you, but after I met you, I realized that there's something between us, and I want to seek this out, that kind of thing. That's more honest than I feel like anyone would ever be with anyone in the history of life. It's like, it's almost unrealistic to be that honest with someone in that scenario. You know what I'm saying?
It is.
But that's what should have happened. If we're playing this by the book.
By the book. That's true.
And then when he got home from that day date, he breaks up with his wife immediately. Not lying about Sixto and the big cheeses over at Patagonia. Yeah.
Sixto.
I'll allow him the lie that he was outside till 4 a.m. even though the bar closed at 2. I'll allow him that lie because he technically wasn't on a date with her. It was
That's true.
He was hanging out with her family.
That's true.
All of them.
Which could be realistic. And she only asked him at the very end when they were smoking, right?
Yeah.
Oh, do you have a girlfriend or something? And that's when she mentioned that she was on a break from her, her fiance or her boyfriend at the time. And all that. So he got to know her, and it wasn't romantic at that time. Like, maybe they were flirting and stuff, but
they were not even close to like they were going to kiss or anything.
Yeah.
They were just hanging out.
It wasn't intentionally. He was cheating on his wife. But when he started going on dates, like, I know there was no physical funny business, but he was emotionally cheating when he started to like go on the dates and do the lies and all that stuff.
No, and it was clear that they were into each other that day. Like, that's when the relationship formed. But it should have been stated before they went on that trip. Because him going on that trip without telling either of them is hedging. Equals cheating.
Okay, this whole thing blows up in his face. It just blows up like a nuclear explosion. He gets, obviously, what he deserved for doing this whole thing. It was barely, was already a long shot that he could even make it work with Miranda, knowing the fact that this happened. She finds out anyway. Is there any scenario in the world that he could actually get her back?
So You mean when he returns from Mexico, like when it's all said and done?
Yeah, I mean, Mexico aside, like just even the fact that she knows that this happened, like he has to go through that.
Which, by the way, might have been the best 10 minutes of the movie is him being stranded in Mexico. But that's neither here nor there.
I joked in the beginning it was too long, but it actually was too short, actually.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, him sneaking into the bedroom and whispering to her his confession and professing his love was the most ridiculous.
He broke into her house.
Yeah. Right.
Looking like he was...
Like, he didn't even take a shower. Like he was still like fully like on the run, you know,
the
for
beard,
Mexico.
You know the beard they do to the guy Aaron in Jackass?
Yeah, the beard.
That's the beard
kind of the beard he had.
in this. When they made him that's all I could think about. Yeah. You talk about wispy beard. Yeah. That's the wispiest of all beards.
His skin was like leather.
Could you imagine how bad he must have smelled?
Oh,
he didn't change his clothes. Like
he didn't change his clothes.
I think what they say, Lila stole his passport. She burned everything.
She burned his clothes, stole his passport, stole his wallet.
I like how his answer to get back is to talk to Carlos Mencia is going to sneak him over the border. Like, don't call the embassy. He's like, oh, I have to wait a month to get my papers. Yeah. It probably took him 3 months to get back over anyway.
Yeah.
He's like, don't worry, I'm an American. It's good. Yeah. Anyway, no. Is there a scenario where this could happen?
No, even if he did it the right way, cleaned himself up, you know, got himself together, met her at a very appropriate time and place. No, it's like he's the ultimate creep. Like there's no explaining away after you get caught red-handed doing what he did. So
I asked my wife while I was watching this with her. I said when he showed up at their house, like, is he just some crazy guy that they met on vacation? Like, oh my God, this guy again?
Yeah.
And to him, like, this is his entire life.
Yeah. They knew him for 72 hours.
To them, it was Tuesday. It's like
it was a Tuesday.
You know, it's like a Tuesday and this random guy showing up.
To them, they are sitting at breakfast, you know, a couple weeks after this happened and going,
remember that crazy?
Remember that crazy guy, Edward? What was up with that guy? He seemed like a nice guy. He turned into a total nutball. And he's on the hammock ear blanking Manuel for a month about his long lost love, Miranda. It's two different sides here, two different coins.
I just think it's so funny that like it meant his entire life, and to them, like, did he ruin their vacation? Would you say he ruined it, or no?
No,
they just kind of let it go.
Ruined it, but he kind of like he definitely was a memory. But let me tell you. Now this is just this is getting off topic, but I'm sorry. It's 7 a.m. the next morning.
We're recording this for 6 hours. I'm going to make it 5 hours of cuts.
What kind of people take a family vacation to Cabo every year, which they say they do here in this movie, to renew their vows?
Peter McAllister and his...
Yeah. So this couple, Boo and the wife, what's the wife's name? Beryl and Boo. They renew their vows in Cabo every year, and every year it's a family get together in Cabo. Who's paying for this? Is it Boo every time?
I don't know.
So we're just having Cabo vacations every year to renew vows. Like that's pretty vain, isn't it?
Where's Uncle Frank?
Look, I mean, you may or may not be one of my best friends. I mean, that hasn't been established. But like, if you're renewing your vows every year in Mexico, I'm probably going to say no after a while. I can't make it.
You're gonna get tired of Mexico.
Yeah.
You're like,
unless
you're
paying
this in St. Lucia next time.
I mean, unless you're paying. But even if you're paying, Drew, it's like, oh, we're just gonna go Cabo once every week for your vain vows.
Yeah, you only get 3 weeks of vacation a year. You're gonna use a whole week on my family.
Exactly. Like Cabo's nice. Don't get me wrong. It's probably it's beautiful. It looks beautiful. But like it's kind of like an odd, selfish family vacation. This Boo and Beryl
every year.
Every year.
It's like, I mean, I think the other thing that I was going to ask you too about this was, did Miranda marry Carol because she was upset about the whole thing with Ben Stiller's character? She ran back to her.
Yeah, it messed her up. It emotionally scarred her. For sure.
And he obviously sneaks into her house and she says like, no, I'm not going to get back with you. Like, and then she did look back. So obviously she was into him on some level, but they knew each other for what? 72 hours? It was like 3 days, right? 3 long days.
3 long days. 3 long days in Cabo.
We have to say what happens here. She tells him like, no, there's no chance in hell, which I can completely understand. And then he winds up getting divorced from Lila. Lila gets the sporting goods store in the divorce, and he decides to move down to Cabo full time and become a perma vacationer.
Yep.
So I need to ask you, did he learn his lesson from this whole thing? And why
No.
not? And why
No.
not?
Well, clearly we see at the end of the movie, Miranda's back again at Cabo for Beryl and Boo once again renewing those vows. They didn't die yet; they're still there.
Down on the farm in The Walking Dead.
Yeah, and he has his, he's a perma vacation. Is that what they call it?
Perma vacationer, I believe.
Yeah. So he's got his, his Three Amigos stand of water sports with Carlos Mencia and Manuel.
Great business partners.
Yeah, and Miranda walks up and says, "Hey, guess what? It didn't work out with me and Cal. Was it Cal?
Cal, I believe.
Cal, I believe. Yeah. So didn't work out because she rushed into it, and that's what happens when you rush into it. But instead of being a crazy person, she divorced him like a normal person. Was honest with him, probably. And then she's like, "Hey, let's have a drink. Let's talk about it. Whatever. Let's see if something's here." So she's willing to forgive and forget. Chance meeting. If it just so happened that he wasn't there anymore in Cabo, she probably would not have looked him up, right?
Yeah.
So he's like, "Yeah, drinks at 7. I can make that work." He turns around and there's his wife, Eva Longoria. He's married. He's married to Eva Longoria, Drew.
Did you notice he had a wedding ring on, and it was pretty obvious? Like, he didn't try to hide it, I thought, which was interesting. And it was.
I looked for it because I've seen this movie before, so I know the ending. But if you're watching it for the first time, it's something you might not notice.
Right.
He doesn't have a wedding ring on. So then he basically tells Eva Longoria, "Hey, I got plans. I'll see you later on for a late dinner." So
same thing.
So the head water skiing apparel person's here. I gotta have dinner with business partners. I'll have a late dinner. We'll have a talk about some good things. It'll sting at first, but in the long run, great things. So there he is hedging again. He's hedging.
Yep.
If the drinks with Miranda doesn't work out, he could just go back to the wife and like nothing happened. But if the Miranda thing does work out, then he has a difficult conversation. It's hedging. It's cheating. It's the only way it's not cheating is if he breaks up with her right then and there and says, "The girl of my dreams just showed up on my doorstep. I'm sorry. She's the one that got away. We're going to have to get a divorce." Again, it's a conversation that's too real for real life.
Yeah.
But it's the right thing to do.
So 2 questions for you. And the setup is, they said it was 18 months later. So at maximum, and it was so not only was he married to Eva Longoria, it was their 1-year anniversary. He was going to divorce her, potentially.
Yes. Yeah.
So at maximum, he knew her for 6 months before he married her, which we know sure as hell, this is Fast Eddie Cantro here. He's not going to be, he's not going to be knowing her for 6 months. So my questions are how long did he know Eva Longoria's character, which we don't know? Did he actually like her? Did he even know anything about her?
Was he pressured into it by his dad? Well, was he just struck by her beauty and didn't really get to know her?
And he's about to drop her on a dime. But I like how you said it, because when I was watching, I wasn't thinking about the hedge of the bet.
Yeah.
Should he have told Miranda? And if he told Miranda, would she have understood? Because in all things considered, she told him, "Get the hell out of here. I don't want to marry you." So it would be obviously understandable that he moved on and got married.
Yeah. This is a red flag for Miranda because he asked her, "So you're single?"
Yes.
Nah. She didn't ask him. But at the same time, he didn't tell her.
True.
I feel like he's going to try to get this divorce on the download, Drew.
Yeah, he is. And not tell her at all.
Yeah.
Or should he tell her at dinner? Do you think he's planning to tell her at dinner or no?
I would hope so, but I can't put it past him to have it slip his mind based on what we know about this guy.
This guy is... He
should tell her.
You know what? We didn't bust out... We've been talking about the villain scale this whole time.
Yeah. Creep all shame.
Yes. Yeah. Induct him right now.
Yeah.
Play the music behind me
but
right now.
Is he a creep or just is he a scumbag?
Yeah, I forgot the definition.
Scumbag scale?
Yeah, the Scumbag Hall of Fame. What I forgot the definition. You did it on an episode probably within the last 10 here, but creep versus scumbag versus scumbucket, I think we did. Yeah. I don't know if we did creep versus scumbag.
Scumbucket. You're a bucket of scum. You're a bag of scum.
What's the difference between a creep and a scumbag then? From the creep Hall of Shame?
I think a creep is malicious.
Yeah,
and predatory.
Yeah, he's kind of predatory. I don't
think he's a creep because he's a snake.
He's not a creep. He's not a scumbag.
A snake isn't a creep. A snake is a scumbag.
Yeah, he's a scrub.
Because he's keeping secrets.
He's a scrub, to quote somebody.
Yeah. If you're keeping secrets, you're not necessarily a creep. A creep is someone who's malicious and predatory. He's spying on women, or if he's
he's a peep.
He's a peeper.
He's not a creeper. He's a peeper.
He's a peeper, not a creeper.
So we got peep versus scumbag versus creep.
Yeah.
Put him in, I'm gonna play the triumphant music because he's going into whatever the hell the hall of shame here.
Yeah.
Because this dude is, I mean, he's up there, man. I mean, let's just call a spade a spade. Let's end it on that. He's inducted.
Yep.
Whatever he does, Miranda should run for the hills. Maybe Martin should get out his baseball bat again and whack him in the calves again. Get this guy out of here.
It's not often to make the bad guy the main character of a movie, but they did it here.
I love this movie. Let me go on the record and say it. I do love this movie. This is my Deuce Bigelow 2 European Gigolo of the Farrelly brothers. It's it's not great, but it's a fun movie. And at the end of the day, like, I don't really recall watching this thinking, oh man, this guy's complete scumbag. When I watched it this time, I'm thinking like, I was like appalled. And maybe it's just years later, but but final question for you.
Yes.
How long before that sporting goods store goes out of business? Now that
it's already gone. It's like,
it's out of business.
Yeah. She can't handle it. She can't handle that kind of responsibility. It's over.
I'm curious what the listeners think. Does Ben Stiller's character Eddie Cantor deserve to be in the scumbag, creep, peep, whatever the Hall of Shame is? Write in and let us know. The Last Row Podcast at gmail.com. Send us a tweet at The Last Row Pod. Leave a comment on the episode's page on the website. Leave it on the Instagram page. And as always, if you're enjoying our show, please consider leaving us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podchaser. And we hope everybody's enjoying the show. And we'll be back in 2 weeks on Thursday, May 12th. And on that note, we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Woo!
All right, so I wanted to ask you about Carlos Mencia. What happened to that guy?
Yeah?
I can't hear you under the music.
Thank you. Drew. We're okay. It's okay. We don't want any. Thank you, though. Okay, hey, here you go. Here you go. Thank you, but we're fine.